Hello, Augies Worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, here with another episode of Ask Dave. Today's video is about identification requirements and how often you need to do it. The question comes to us from Richard Ferran, K6ES, and he says, if I am using a PC microphone and a VOIP program, or a cell phone and an app such as Echolink, Droidstar, Peanut, etc., do I have to ID? No RF is being generated by me. Well, let's think about that. If what you do causes RF to be emitted somewhere in the ham bands, for example, if you're sitting in Colorado using a big DX station that's out in Oregon, you are causing RF to be transmitted, and therefore you must ID. If you're strictly doing things over the internet, obviously you don't need to. But if you're using Echolink or some of these other things like that, that involve ham radio, and there is somewhere in there a transmission of RF that carries your voice, you need to ID. The ID requirement is at the end of every 10-minute interval or more. Okay, but at least that. Now, he says here, many repeaters play space shuttle audio for days and play ham news programs, and the creators of the audio being broadcast do not ID. Listen carefully, because you will find that every 10 minutes the repeater will ID in Morse code. And it will be in the background so that it doesn't overwhelm the audio signal being broadcast, but it's there. If it's not there, the repeater owner is violating the FCC requirements, and you might bring it to their attention so they can get that fixed. Okay, let's see. Am I third-party audio and the person or equipment facilitating the conversion to RF is responsible for any ID? No. A lot of these systems are automatic, and you are the control operator. So you need to make sure that there is an ID. Now, you would normally ID with your own call sign. Now, if you are operating as a control operator of someone else's station, and their rules require that you ID using their ID, you would say something like, this is KE0OG operating K1ABC, or something like that, and make sure that that's every 10 minutes. It says the app might request me to ID, but what about the FCC? The FCC does require a definitive ID at the end of your conversation, or at the end of every 10 minutes, whichever comes first. Now, this rule creates a bit of an ambiguity because it does not require you to identify at the beginning of your transmission. So it is legal, though not best practice, to have a conversation on a repeater and then not identify yourself till the conversation is over 7 minutes into it. You'll find it frustrates all kinds of people. They don't know who they're talking to. I recommend and consider it best practice that you start your transmission with your ID. K1ABC, this is KE0OG, and then go from there so everybody knows what everybody is doing. In the airplane world, which is also, mostly FAA, but the FCC gets in there too. For example, if I'm talking to traffic in the Delta Blake area, Blake Airfield in Delta, I would say Delta Blake traffic, so it's a general call. And it would be usually the last three letters. So if I threw Romeo, entering right base for landing runway 3, Delta Blake, and say the direction again in case people didn't catch it at the middle. But notice the second thing in there is my ID, who I am. And that's because, I live where there's a really tiny airfield and people kind of know each other by their voice, but that's not an ID. and it's certainly not sufficient for something involving transmission on ham radio. So if you're the guy talking and you're the guy controlling, meaning when you push the push to talk button, it goes to transmit, you need to ID. So there you have it. Please also check out dcastler.com/support for ways to support this channel. Please subscribe, please click like, please do all those wonderful things that make YouTube so happy. And until we next meet, 73.